Not often do you get to hear a story about what happens when a chef marries the farmer's daughter and they start a restaurant.
This is where I grew up. This is where I spent most of my time, whether it was milking cows, working in the garden, feeding baby calves. The spot right behind us here was my granny's garden, which we're still planting in today, some 50, 70 some years later.
While Tamara has spent most of her life on the farm, she hasn't always stayed close to home. After college, she moved to California, where she ran Fresh Heifers, a greeting card business, and eventually met her husband Craig when she asked him for a spicy gumbo recipe.
We started dating and eventually got married, and had always talked about having a restaurant where we could grow the produce on a farm and use it in the restaurant. In 2004, my father was diagnosed with a glioblastoma brain tumor and was given 9 months to live. And I moved back here. He lived for 18 months. And Craig and I were presented with an opportunity to be the stewards of this land that had been taken care of by my father and by my grandparents.
Well, as you told us, history is all around us, and what is so fascinating is that you've been able to continue on your family's legacy and you're growing produce that's supplying the restaurant today. Kind of take us how you've kind of made this all happen.
Well, we did a lot of digging, a lot of planting, a lot of resurrecting, not so much of this soil area, but our raised beds where we planted on top of poor soil down the way that had been neglected. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and I'm not a very patient person, so it's a little slow going, but we want to do it right.
Give us some examples of what we find in the restaurant that you're growing right here.
This is Swiss chard, and it's surrounded by mustard, and the mustard's not really to eat, it's just to keep the flea beetles satisfied so that they don't eat my leaves. I use that with kale as well, and you just surround it with mustard.
And that's what we're seeing around here on the edges? Okay.
Yep. In between the rows, which they're kind of popping up, we have beets that we just planted a few weeks ago. And in the front we have calendula, which we use the flowers on salads and different herb mixes. And then in front of that we have a little frais de bois, which we use for desserts. So it's a alpine strawberry. Here we have part of our tomato patch for this year. And
how many tomato plants did you plant this year?
This year we planted 176. Wow. And we did a lot of cherry tomatoes. This one has been one of my favorites. You should taste this. This is a cerise. It's a French heirloom tomato. It's got a nice, tangy, tart, sweet flavor to it. So he'll use it as a sauce on fish. We use it as with bruschetta. We use it as part of our panzanella salad tomato mix. But I'm real happy with this. I haven't grown it before, but I'm definitely gonna grow it next year. These are a beefsteak variety, and it's actually an ox heart variety tomato that one of our guests went to France and saved the seed from a tomato he had purchased at a farmer's market. He gave me some of the tomato. I saved the seed and I planted it this year, so that's what this is.
So does Chef Craig ever run out of ways to use the tomato?
He loves tomatoes as much as I do.
It's obvious Tamara and Craig have a passion for growing and creating delicious food, but their mission for Harvest Restaurant goes far beyond a dining experience.
We wanted to have a restaurant in a rural setting, but we didn't want to interrupt the rural lifestyle. It's real important to preserve open space and green land where people can grow things and produce things in their own backyard for their own use and for others' use, where it's not shipped on a truck or overnighted, produce that's unripe to ripen on the truck. I think it's real important because you can't grow tomatoes in cement. We could have divided up this property and just be off in Italy somewhere, lounging around, but we have so much respect for the agriculture heritage that happened here in this area and on this farm that I could just never realistically see doing that. I think part of your mission in life is to be a good steward for the land, especially if you grew up and experienced all the wonderful things that you can experience on that land.
A visit to Harvest Restaurant will not only guarantee you a delicious, fresh meal, but also a deeper appreciation for local agriculture in the hands of those who feed you.